What's going on, guys? Stefan here. I know a lot of you guys are at that stage in your playing careers now where you're trying to get recruited to play soccer in college. So I'm going to share my story, my experience of how I got recruited to play, and 3 of the most important tips that I learned that I wish I even would have done that I didn't do to help get recruited to play. For those of you who don't know, I played Division I college soccer for Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania from 2013 to 2016. I'm 23 years old now. I finished up college 2 years ago, so we're going to take it back to when I was about 14, 15 years old in high school when the recruiting process started. So back when I was 14, 15 years old, I was a sophomore in high school and I was playing in the USSDA, the US Soccer Development Academy, which is just the whole youth academy system here in America. I was playing for another academy team up until about U14, and then once the under 15 season came around, I tried out and made another academy team, which was BW Gachi. And this was the team I played for the rest of my youth career up until under 18 when I left for college. The academy was actually renamed the New York Cosmos for the first 2 of those 3 years that I was there before going back to Gachi, but I'll just refer to that academy as Gachi because that's what they're called now. So I was playing with the under 15 team, was doing very well, and actually got called into a few training sessions with the under 16 team. So I trained a little bit with the 16s, coach really liked me and actually brought me up permanently to the under 16 team. So I was 14, 15 years old playing the age group up with the under 16s for that season. In that season in particular, I know really benefited me in the college recruiting process because I was playing an age group up in the academy system, which is the highest level of youth soccer in the United States, obviously below the national team, which is a very high level, but I was playing with and against players who were in their junior years of high school, which is really the time when college coaches look at players for their teams. So I was a sophomore getting looked at every weekend by college coaches, while that under 15 team I used to be on, they weren't really getting looks by college coaches. Most of the college coaches just focused on the under 16s and under 18s. And because of NCAA rules, college coaches aren't allowed to contact you in any sort of way until some point during your junior year, I believe. So there's really not much of a point for a college coach to go to an under 15 game where they can't contact you if they're interested anyway, so they'll go to the under 16 game. But I had a very good season, I was playing every weekend, and that led to the first school that wanted to recruit me. Because I was still a sophomore, college coaches couldn't reach out to me first, but my coach for Gachi knew one of the college coaches that came to our game who expressed interest in me. My coach just kind of gave me a hint afterwards saying, hey, you should reach out to the school if the coach liked how you played. So I guess that was their way about getting around that rule. So afterwards, I reached out to the coaches, they got back to me, they said, hey, we liked how you played, we'd love to have you in for a visit. So this was going to be my first college visit. The first school I visited was Seton Hall. My dad and I set up a time during the summer after my sophomore year to go visit the school and visit the coaches. And keep in mind, I was very early in the recruiting process compared to most players in my age group. So I was going for my first college visit. I had no idea what to expect. I still had 2 full years of high school ahead of me, so I had no idea about college at all. But the visit was actually really cool. My dad and I got to the campus, the coaches met with us, they brought us to the practice, and we watched the team train. After we watched them train, the coaches met up with us again, gave us a tour of the entire campus, told us all about the school, sat down with us a little bit afterwards, expressed their level of interest, and then just kind of kept in contact after that. So that was my first college visit of the 7 that I eventually did. So my academy season wrapped up, next season was around the corner. Because I knew college coaches like going to those under 16 games where they can watch juniors play, instead of moving up to the under 18s, I stayed with the under 16s, which was my normal age group, so I played under 16 for 2 seasons. And I was finally a junior in high school, so coaches were able to reach out to me now. And in my personal experience, the academy system is definitely the way to go if you are able to. College coaches come out to the games every single weekend, and every single season there are 2 showcases, one in Florida, one in Texas. At least while I was playing, they were there, and every single college coach in the country goes to those showcases. So the academy games is definitely where college coaches flock to first. But I had another good year with the under 16s, and throughout the course of the season I was getting more and more interest from colleges, and I ended up visiting 7 of the schools that expressed interest. Those 7 schools that I visited were Seton Hall, Lafayette, Wake Forest, Marist, Holy Cross, Temple, and I can't remember the last one. So over the course of that season, I would go with my dad whenever we could fit it in our schedule to go visit colleges. Most of these schools were a bit of a drive away. In Wake Forest, we actually had to fly to visit the coaches. But I remember liking every single one of these schools and even got a couple of offers along the way. And it was still until that point, I didn't make any commitment to any school. I was still playing every weekend during my season. I still wanted to see kind of who expressed interest. I ended up getting interest from the school that I eventually chose, Temple University, which was my 7th and final visit. And after touring the campus, meeting with the coaches, seeing their level of interest in me, which I think was really the point that made me want to go to Temple, was just seeing their level of interest in me. They wanted to take the program in another direction. They were changing conferences to a more difficult conference. Because they were moving to a better conference, they really wanted to bolster that freshman class coming in. They expressed to me that they saw me as a piece that could really help them. So I ended up getting an offer from them, and I verbally committed my junior year of high school. And my freshman class that they ended up bringing into Temple, I think was ranked the 19th best recruiting class in the country or something like that. And I think I ended up being the 53rd top recruit in the country or something like that. It was pretty mind-blowing. And I'm not saying this to brag or anything. I want to keep this as transparent as possible. I understand I was very fortunate to be in a good academy system, playing a year up and being seen by college coaches every weekend. And I understand it's not an opportunity for everybody out there. So I'm going to give you my top 3 tips to get recruited into college. And this is stuff that I learned from my experience and stuff I definitely would have done different. Tip number 1, play at the highest level you possibly can. Especially in your high school years when you start getting to that sophomore, junior, senior age, play at the highest level you can. If that's playing varsity for high school for you, awesome, do that. If that's playing for a good club team, do that. If that's getting into a good academy team, do that. Just keep pushing, play at the highest level because coaches want players who can play at the highest level. And coaches don't only go to the academy games, they definitely go to club teams too. On my Temple team, we had local players who played on local club teams, players who played on academy teams, and players who came from overseas. So there are 1,000,001 ways to get recruited. It's not a one-size-fits-all type deal. Tip number 2, be proactive. And this is something I wish I would have done when I was in high school. Create a highlight video, create a CV or resume, and email and go after coaches. This is something I wish I would have done more of when I was 15, 16. Rather than just playing every weekend and seeing if any coaches liked you, go after the coaches you're interested, go after the schools you're interested in, and just be proactive because not every single school is going to be at every single game of yours. And especially for the schools that aren't local that you're interested in, it's important that they can see you play without actually having to travel and go to your games. So highlight videos are extremely important. I finally understand this concept of reaching out to people now because that's essentially what drove every opportunity that I had after college to continue playing. And my 3rd tip is make sure you're a good student and have good grades. Luckily for me, I did very well on my tests. I was a good student in school, but I did have teammates who missed out on really good opportunities to play in college just because their grades weren't there. So if a school comes along and is interested in you for soccer, wants to bring you in, wants you on their team, but you don't have the grades, it's just not going to happen. So make sure your grades are just as good as you're playing. But that's a story of how I got recruited to play in college. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave this video a like, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more videos in the future. Peace.